So, this is a pretty interesting story that feels like it might be a big deal. I guess I'm not quite sure how big of a deal it is, but something interesting happened yesterday, which was the announcement of a new game, and it's actually a remaster, a remake, remaster of a game from many years ago called Yooka-Laylee. And at the end of the trailer, from Playtonic's trailer for this game, this remaster of Yooka-Laylee, when it showed the logos for the platforms you'd be able to play it on, it did not show a Nintendo Switch logo, but it did show just a Nintendo logo. So for anyone who doesn't know or doesn't remember, Yooka-Laylee was a game that was inspired by the likes of games like Banjo-Kazooie, those 3D platformer collectathon games from the mid-90s, which was an era that I loved playing at the time. I love these kinds of games. I loved them back then. I love them today. And the Nintendo 64 is probably my favorite console of all time. I was 16 years old when it came out, and it blew my mind. There are other consoles with stronger libraries by volume, but maybe one of these days I'll make a video kind of breaking my thoughts down here. But at the end of the day, without overthinking it, just know that the N64, based on my nostalgia, is probably my favorite console. So games like Banjo-Kazooie, Banjo-Tooie, or even Super Mario 64 and plenty of others of that genre were a really big deal and helped make the platforming genre my favorite genre of all time. So Yooka-Laylee, if I'm remembering correctly, was announced as either a Kickstarter or some kind of a crowdfunding platform at the time. This was like 2015, 2016, 17, something in that era. You know, around 10 or so years ago. Around the time, if I'm remembering correctly, that Mighty Number 9 might have been a big deal. Either that Kickstarter was still going, or maybe it had just finished and the really broken version of that game had just launched. You guys remember Mighty Number 9? What a weird period of history that was. Anyway, a lot of the developers who used to work for Rare, and I think even worked on Banjo-Kazooie, decided to make a game that was a spiritual love letter to that franchise and games like it, which of course was Yooka-Laylee. I purchased, and actually, sorry, I didn't purchase. I was provided a review code for that game for the Nintendo Switch, and I made my own review of that game, and I really enjoyed it. It was a little bit janky. It had some incomplete feeling elements to it, but overall, for a Kickstarter game that I don't think was very expensive to purchase at the time, it was a lot of fun, and because it was a love letter to a genre I appreciate so much, I really enjoyed it for that reason. Of course, which brings us to yesterday's announcement where, as I said in the intro, it was revealed that there is a new version, a remaster, improved, remade assets version of Yooka-Laylee is now coming out. And it's Yooka-Laylee-Replaylee, if I'm saying that right. I kind of play on weird terms there. I mean, look, Banjo-Tooie is the same kind of a play on words as Yooka-Laylee-Replaylee. So they're re-releasing this game and they're remastering it. I'm sure that they're going to fix a lot of the jankiness and the camera issues. I haven't looked enough into it to see if they're adding any new content specifically, but it's an upgraded version of what was a really good game. And I'm just going to guess that it's going to sell for like a budget price, maybe 30 or 40 bucks. I don't know that. I don't know if the price has been announced. I hadn't seen it by the time I'm making this video. Hopefully it's released at something like 30 or 40 bucks, because it would really be a steal at that price, especially for the modern consoles, PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X, PC, and again, to get back to the focus of this conversation, Nintendo. So yeah, man, this is what the internet keyed in on yesterday. And if you look at the logos at the end of the trailer here in this screen, there is no Switch logo with the two little Joy-Cons and the whole Nintendo Switch anything. It's just the standard Nintendo logo, which of course has everyone thinking, and this includes me, I'm not gonna lie, I totally am believing this here. It's got everyone thinking that this is a hint that this game will be coming to the Nintendo Switch 2. Now, it should be noted that if there's any truth to this, more than likely it would probably be coming to the Switch and the Switch 2. I think that's part of the reason why it just says Nintendo and not specifically Nintendo Switch or anything else. I don't know that. I can only speculate. That's all we can all do. But something else I wanted to point out, if you actually look at their tweet too, Playtonic, they temporarily have their Twitter account labeled as Slaytonic, obviously because it's October and Halloween is next week. But they actually mentioned, as well as PC, it's Replaylee. I realized I was getting the name wrong the whole time, so forgive me. So it's Yooka-Replaylee, I guess, will be on PS5, Xbox Series, and ellipses Nintendo, and they give the little looky eye emoji thing. And so I say that because they very clearly wanted to call out specifically Nintendo. They weren't even afraid to point out themselves as the developer of the game, announcing the game's existence, that they didn't list Nintendo Switch, they just listed Nintendo. So look, man, no more beating around the bush. I think that this is telling us that this game is coming to the Nintendo Switch 2. More than likely Switch and Switch 2. Like I said, that's probably, if I was going to go to Vegas and put money down on this, I'm putting money down on a Switch and a Switch 2 version. Something that has to do with the Switch 2, as well as probably what will eventually be the last generation Switch, right? Once the Switch 2 releases. And so I think that this is this the first confirmation of a game? You know, and I use the word confirmation lightly, but is this the first official hint or tease from an actual developer about the next generation Nintendo console? And I think so. Now, I've seen one or two people make vague references to other games that have been announced for the Switch 2, but like, is that really true? I don't think so. Maybe there's been some offhanded developer comments on some games where they hinted at something. And I mean, look, I don't live and breathe this stuff. I do YouTube and play games as a hobby on the side for my day job, my music, my career, my social life. So I follow it closely enough to run a YouTube channel and talk about Nintendo stuff and video game stuff. But I don't know everything, so maybe I missed something. But I will say, this is getting traction as though it was the first official tease or hint at something. So whatever other vague Reddit forum comment that might exist out there that maybe 30 people picked up on in the last year, I don't know. I don't know. And if there is something else that's out there, great. But let's be real. Everyone's very focused on Yooka-Replaylee, this game, and Playtonic's announcement and them calling out and showing the Nintendo logo and not the Switch logo. So to me, this feels like and appears to be the first official, I'm going to call it a tease because confirmation isn't accurate, the first official tease about the Switch 2 from some company that makes video games, and the first official tease at the next generation of Nintendo console, a game potentially coming out for it. Now let's be honest about something else though regarding Yooka-Laylee here and this remaster. The game looks great. I liked the original game. This new one looks even better, and we know it's going to run and play better because it's a remaster for more powerful consoles. But at the end of the day, this isn't the kind of game that you imagine showing off new hardware, okay? So this isn't the kind of gameplay or graphics or environment or just scope of game that when we think of the Nintendo Switch 2 and the power of the next generation of a company's console, you don't think of what Yooka-Laylee is. Even the remaster, it looks great for what it is. The art style's great. The upgraded visuals look amazing. But this isn't like next gen. It's not going to be pushing the PlayStation or Xbox to any sort of degree. And it's probably not even going to be indicative of the power of the Switch 2. So I don't think that this is meant to get us excited for the power of the Switch 2. This to me just feels like some more tangible evidence of the impending reveal of the Switch 2. So we then ask ourselves, did Playtonic do this because they just needed to announce this game before Nintendo was ready to announce the Switch 2? Is Nintendo aware of this, and did they give them the okay to just put the Nintendo logo on it but not include the Switch logo? We don't know. I tend to think Nintendo is in on this. I've seen a few people talking about maybe they went behind Nintendo's back and Nintendo's going to be mad at them. I don't think that's the case. My guess and feeling is that Nintendo knows all about this. But it does, if anything, call into question the timing. Why did it happen now? Why did it happen with Yooka-Laylee and not some other bigger, more exciting game, or even a first-party Nintendo game? If this is really what it seems like, then Nintendo was not the first company to tease their own next generation. Playtonic was with the Yooka-Laylee remaster. And, you know, yes, Nintendo sent a tweet out about revealing the Switch 2 in this fiscal year, but I'm not talking about like an official release like that. I'm talking about some other kind of a tease. Like, let's say when Mario and Luigi was announced, I think in the June Direct, right? Wasn't that in the June Direct they announced that game? Let's pretend that game was announced with, instead of the Switch logo at the end, it just said the Nintendo logo, and everyone noticed that. You know, Nintendo didn't do the first kind of tease outside of that tweet earlier this year about the Switch 2. It's Playtonic. It's Yooka-Laylee. It's a third-party multi-platform game that's coming to all platforms, PC, Xbox, PlayStation, and Nintendo. So it's not a bad thing. I'm not trying to make it sound like I even think this is negative. So don't misinterpret my meaning here. I just find it interesting that it wasn't even Capcom or Square, or like a huge higher tier developer. It's Playtonic, a great developer, but not the tier of a Capcom or something like that, or like a Square or whatever, a Rockstar Games. Just, you could list them off. So does this mean what we think it means? Is this the first official tease of the Switch 2? And is it happening now because the Switch 2 is going to be revealed soon like we all think? And maybe Playtonic knows that. Maybe they know that in the coming weeks they'll be able to officially slap a Switch 2 logo at the end of their trailer for this game, but they wanted to get it out now. Did Nintendo give them the okay? Or did they kind of squeeze this one by, and maybe they didn't officially break any rules because they didn't put a Switch 2 logo, they just put the Nintendo logo? You know what I'm saying? Like, we can start to kind of fill in the gaps a little bit in our mind's eye about what's happening here and why this happened, but I'm going to stick to my own theory that I mentioned. This probably was done in conjunction with Nintendo. I'm going to assume Nintendo knows. Technically, the Switch 2 isn't confirmed through this. It's just teased, so there's really nothing happening there. Doesn't mean I didn't have an excuse to make a 15-minute freaking video conversation about it, because it's fascinating. And look, at the end of the day, most important thing, Yooka-Laylee is a good game, so let's just be excited the game is even getting a remaster anyway. I'll definitely be buying it. If it releases before the Switch 2 is out, I'm going to buy it on the PS5. If it releases after the Switch 2 is out and there is a Switch 2 version, I'll probably buy the Switch 2 version, right? So we'll see. I have it on the Switch. I really enjoyed it. The Impossible Lair 2D side-scroller sequel game was even better in my opinion. But this is a really exciting release. I think, yes, this is a hint at the Switch 2. And so now we play the waiting game and see, are we going to get it revealed sometime soon? So that's about it.